You spend years honing a unique voice and aesthetic. Then you step into the market and realize the industry rewards conformity over originality. Consider Ali and Cairn. As fresh graduates from the Rhode Island School of Design, they had the formal training and the distinct vision required to make an immediate impact on the fashion world. Instead of a glamorous atelier, they set up shop on the 4th floor of 123 Doran Street in Providence. It was a gritty, relentless operation, in a studio so small the steam from their irons constantly fogged the windows. While their physical space was incredibly cramped, the ideological constraints of their industry posed a much larger threat to their creative growth. The local New England fashion scene heavily favored the predictable. Buyers demanded safe, tested aesthetics that wouldn't ruffle any feathers. When Ali and Cairn presented their vibrant, deeply personal work, the reception was chilly. Gatekeepers treated their designs as polite curiosities, offering a dismissive, "Not yet, not like that." Back in their warm studio, their 2 dogs, a Frenchie named Harley and a Corgi named Maggie, napped peacefully on piles of fabric. Outside those doors, the industry feedback remained cold and unyielding. This diagram maps out a choice every creator eventually faces. When the market rejects your work, do you stand down your edges to survive, or do you hold on to your vision and risk disappearing entirely? Needing a break from that constant pressure, the duo packed up the dogs and drove out to Newport. Sometimes you just need to step away and breathe in the salty ocean air to clear your head. While walking the cliffs, they took a spontaneous detour to an estate sale sitting right near one of Rhode Island's massive historic stone mansions. There, they found something entirely unexpected: a massive, ancient oak weaving loom. It was detailed with heavy iron gears and carved with a 4-leaf clover and a horseshoe. Stepping away from their tiny Doran Street epichamber gave them the mental reset required to find the exact tool that would disrupt their current creative rut. Back in the studio, the loom began to act as a mirror for their internal deliberation. As they wove, the patterns began to form on their own, reflecting the different paths their business could take. Some of these visions were incredibly bright. They saw international runways, loud applause, and widespread industry recognition. This timeline illustrates the darker paths they saw. We see a trajectory of creative imitation, complete burnout, and the hollow reality of achieving scale without any actual joy. The loom offered no fixed prophecies. It simply visualized how specific decisions along the way physically compound over time, shifting a creator's trajectory towards stable growth. Those abstract visions soon materialized in the real world. Major fashion houses started approaching Ali and Cairn with lucrative offers, promising immense wealth and fame. They navigated the temptation of massive numbers by relying on a surprising anchor: Harley and Maggie. Whenever a new design felt too sterile or strayed from their original aesthetic, Harley would nudge Cairn, or Maggie would paw at Ali's hand. The dogs subconsciously kept the designers tethered to the joy of making the clothes, so they rejected the corporate money and doubled down on their roots. They began designing scarves patterned directly after the winding Providence River, and dresses mimicking the local Pawtucket S-curves. By refusing a homogenizing buyout and leaning heavily into their hyper-local geography, they built a highly calculated foundation for endurance. Customers felt the deep intention behind every stitch. This persistence eventually wore down the local skepticism. Once people in Providence started wearing coats lined with poetry and scarves that looked like their own river, the perception of their work began to shift. That local enthusiasm created a buzz that couldn't be ignored by outside markets. Their specific, Providence-inspired identity stood out in a sea of generic trends, making them an immediate curiosity in New York. Eventually, that momentum carried them across the Atlantic, reaching the absolute pinnacle of the global fashion scene in Paris. Their arrival in Paris was a direct result of their local focus. By saturating their designs with specific meaning, from the river to the S-curves, they offered the global market a level of depth that mass-produced trends simply couldn't replicate. Backstage at that first International Paris show, amidst the chaos of models and makeup, Harley and Maggie sat proudly, wearing tiny matching ANC bandanas. The international press and runway claws were secondary. Their true victory was reaching massive scale while preserving the exact identity they built back on Doran Street. In any creative pursuit, your trajectory is never a fixed path handed down by the gatekeepers of your industry. As Allie smiled and looked at their work, she knew the truth. You don't simply stumble upon the right pattern for success. You have to make the choice and actively weave it yourself.